Erin is going to stay with you on stage. I'm sure you're tired of my voice. So she will be moderating this next session about the role of retail in improving food access and affordability. And joining her for this conversation is Stephen Jennings, the Stakeholder Relations and Brand Lead for Health and Sustainability at Ahold Delhaize USA. So Erin, back over to you.
All right. Good to see you, Stephen.
How do we follow that? I'm going to look like a smuck.
Never. All right, well, so again, I know this panel is about kind of the role of retail in access and affordability of food. Kind of a complex problem. How did Ahold Delhaize, kind of decide to take this on, and where do you start? How do you get started with that? Where do you decide you can make a difference?
Well, first off, do I have any East Coast friends in the audience here? Okay. Whoa, not that many. Okay. So
we're in Texas.
We are the largest East Coast grocery retail group. So we have brands that stretch from Maine down to Georgia and over to Tennessee, over 2,000 stores, supermarkets, and 200,000 associates, and we serve 30 million customers a week. So do we have the opportunity for impact and maybe nudging our customers towards better food options? Absolutely. But what I want to bring to the table, and it kind of ties into some of the conversation we've been having, is it's bringing dignity to food affordability and access. And I have a lot of personal experience in that space myself, personally and professionally. And I'm going to tell you a little story about a little 15-year-old bagger. I've been with the company for 28 years. And growing up, my family's from rural Tennessee. They moved to the countryside of Philadelphia for jobs. And I will say I never went without a meal. But one thing I did go without was, or I should say, one thing I was understood was Kraft macaroni and cheese was a vegetable for me. Homemade mashed potatoes, now that was a real vegetable, but if anybody comes from the South, you know what it's really made of, right? Butter and a little bit of milk. So I never understood what nutrition insecurity was until I got my first job working in a grocery store and started realizing there's this whole produce department and there's all this green stuff that was really scary. I didn't even know what some of it was called. And even through that working in that lived experience is when I start to understand the value and maybe how I could change my taste palette. But it started directly with communicating with our customers. Because I would see this green scary thing, otherwise known as an artichoke, come down the aisle, and I knew that it hurt my fingers when I picked it up. But it was just asking questions like, what do you do with this? Like, what is this thing? You actually eat this, or is it decoration? So it's just those silly little things that help to change my palate. I did not have my first broccoli, this is a true story, until I was in my 20s. So I share that to say that we don't always know the face of whether it's food insecurity or nutrition insecurity. Just remember, the person sitting next to you could be going through something, right? So always just be a little patient, offer your own friendly advice when talking about food. And there's one thing that brings us all together. One thing. At birthday parties, at graduations, there's always food. Out here, food. It brings us together. So we want to change the narrative towards these better for you options without sacrificing your Kraft macaroni and cheese.
Yeah. So how did you decide to tackle this issue at your company as a grocery store?
So it's an interesting story. So I now work on the U.S. Health and Sustainability team. So I lead Stakeholder Relations, which is why I get to come chat with all you great people. But on the sustainability side, we have 4 pillars of focus. So it's healthier choices and personalized guidance. We'll come back to that. There's transparency, sustainable products. We heard a lot about that in sourcing from our chocolatier. It's that really tough one of climate action, but it's also around food waste, but more importantly, I would say fresh food recovery and getting food in the hands of people that need it in our communities. So we have metrics for everything. I know we've heard some like pros and cons about measuring, improving, but you got to remember, we're also a business. So we do have to prove a lot of things and why it makes sense and is good for business. And what we found through this 2-year journey, and a lot of this came from the Food as Medicine panel that was up a little earlier, is that, you know what? There's a lot of money in this space because there's a lot of folks out there funding fresh fruit and veg, sometimes called produce prescriptions. You may have heard a little bit about that. They need somewhere they can go redeem these fresh fruit and veg benefits, or healthy benefit cards, we call them. And we have high quality, fresh produce, local within season, and we want to be the fulfillment arm of that. So selfishly, it started as a business proposition. We want to be the fulfillment of these benefits. But then what it turns into, and one of these is one of our commitments with the White House and Hunger Commitment, is education and awareness. So remember what I said about impact, 30 million customers a week. How can we possibly engage 30 million customers a week who are in the store, they want to get out as soon as possible, and they want to get the best price and everything on their list? So how do we engage? So part of our omni-channel approach is it's everything from digital, online, registered dietitians, cook-alongs, all these things we hear. But what you have to remember is it's not at scale. So herein lies the challenge. So our commitment is up to $1 million in focusing on children, nutrition, education, and awareness in all of our local communities. And it's a variety of ways that we do that, or that we're trying to do that, right? And it's for this year, for 2024. So some of it's around school pantry makeovers. So creating a healthier, better for you choices within school pantries. Some of it's around the digital options I mentioned, trying to meet people where they are. But I think the more important thing is we can't eliminate choice or shame people into buying more broccoli. Now, we would love for them to buy more broccoli, but we can't shame people into doing that. So this also comes up with the culturally relevant products. Everyone wants what they know and love. One thing I know and love, besides the mac and cheese, is meatloaf. I grew up with meatloaf once a week. I still love meatloaf. I make meatloaf. But I choose to pair it now with the broccolis of the world and green beans and other things so that I can make a meal that's still familiar to me. I don't sacrifice anything. And then I still get the benefits of adding fruits and veg to my plate.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie to you, mac and cheese was a large part of my diet for probably through college. But yeah, like, what have been some of your like successes that you're proud of in your initiatives that you have started with?
Yeah, so keep in mind, we have to get buy-in top down, right? And remember, with 200,000 associates in the store, how do you get to all 200,000 associates, them to be excited about the same thing, and all moving in the same direction? For us, we started top down with that business proposition that I mentioned, right? That there's money to be had here. We want those sales in our store. We want to increase the sales of fruit and veg. But then you got to build an approach to this. You can't just stop there. So we've kind of adopted what we call 3 pillars of what we refer to as food care. So what is food care? It's what we know and love, the 2 things in our lives as a grocery retailer. It's food, and it's all about people and families. And again, food is that connector for all of that. So we have 3 pillars of kind of, if you will, focus to our approach and what guides us on our march towards, providing these better for you options. So one is guide. So again, thinking of my parents, they didn't know what was healthy, what was not. They were very young parents. They were just going by what they learned from their parents, right? And they also had, I'm the oldest of 6, I don't think I mentioned that. They had 6 bellies to feed. And that's a little challenging to get 6 kids to like everything, right? So that education and awareness is critical. And in our stores, we have a a nutrition guidance program called Guiding Stars. By the way, it's an app, so you can always download the app. There's a great website. You can actually scan products in your own pantry. It'll tell you if your item is better for you, meaning does it earn a star, and it's all based on the nutritional facts on the back of every product. Why that's significant is it's not us telling our customers what's better for you. It's a third-party scientific advisory panel that manages the algorithm. We follow FDA dietary guidelines. So it's a great tool that positively reinforces better-for-you purchases. So meaning if I scan that, sorry, Kraft, but I scan that mac and cheese and it doesn't earn a star, you don't see like a skull and bone come up like, don't buy that. It just simply is not rated. But when something meets a standard and starts earning a star, which means it's better for you by the nutritional guidance, it's like a little reward to shop for the stars, as we say. But it also offers business tie-ins if we choose to go down that road, which is like around rewarding and incentivizing and encouraging for you to build what we refer to as a basket, so that's your shopping cart, so to build a better for you shopping basket. Then the second one is around assortment, right? And that's always the challenge. So we also have to work with our CPG vendors, so it's the consumer packaged goods, so it's your Crafts of the world and your Pepsis and so on also building better for you assortments. So I know one of the comments came up in a former panel about purchase power. It's true, you have purchase power. The more you demand as a customer from us as a retailer and from our vendor partners for better for you options, the more you're going to see in the store. And there's no proof in case that I would say is more relevant than the rise of seltzery waters and flavor seltzery waters. They're everywhere. They're everywhere. There's even commercials from the beverage companies, the large ones, that say 60% of purchases from their own companies are now from these better for you seltzer waters versus the sugary beverages. So that's proof in case right there. They've adapted and they've built a bigger assortment. The third one, which is near and dear to my heart, and a lot of this, what I would call more around the dignity of food access and affordability, is our Nourish pillar. And it's around the health equity that we heard a lot about today. It's also around nutrition insecurity and knowing the difference between the two. So that's where a lot of our fresh food donations come into play, is because traditionally, we've provided the packaged boxes of things. Well, that tends to be processed food, right? Not always the better for you option. So we know fresh is where we want to go and promote more of those donations. So we work with our great local food banks in all of our brands to encourage and increase those fresh food donations or the fresh food rescue, because none of us want to see this food in a landfill.
Yeah, no, it's so wild, from volunteering at the food bank, it's so wild to see, it seems like it's half an H-E-B store that's going down the aisle that you're putting in boxes to give to people. So I'm glad that y'all are, trying to reduce food waste. I'm sure it's a large problem.
Yeah, and again, it's another business case.
Yeah.
So although these items have great impact on our community, it actually ends up saving us money. Mm-hmm. And we reduce carbon emissions, because 75% of food in landfill, or 75% of waste in landfill is food. That is another solvable problem that we all can contribute to, even from our own households, because you all throw food away at some point. We all do it. We can all work to reduce that.
Yeah, we do have a great compost option in Austin, but yeah. So as we're wrapping up, I just want to ask, what do you wish consumers knew about retail and how they can make a difference or support your efforts?
So, I think one thing that might be unknown, just because we think of sometimes grocery retail as big business and not having arms that kind of that address these issues, whether socioeconomic, the education, the awareness. We have amazing teams internally that work on these types of initiatives, whether pilots or projects, with food banks, with nonprofits, with our great friends at Food Tank. we are doing work behind the scenes here. So, and it's around knowing that we want to be your partner to inspire and empower your healthier choices for you and your families. So we're not here to dictate what to buy, but we do recognize we have the responsibility to, we love the word nudge, so to nudge you towards the better for you choice. And we do that again through, whether it's through marketing initiatives or the Guiding Stars program. Just know that we're your partner, and we want to meet you where you are. So in our space, all foods fit. But again, we're going to be there to nudge you to those better for you choices.
Yeah. All right, well, thank you so much for talking with us, Stephen.
Thank you.
Yeah.